What is going on, wonderful people? It's Medicosis Perfectionalis. Welcome back to my microbiology playlist. This video is brought to you by Picmonic. In previous videos, we talked about the gram-positive bacteria versus the gram-negative bacteria. We also talked about fungi, including those that cause superficial mycoses versus those that lead to systemic mycoses. And in the last video, we started talking about viruses. Today, we'll continue our virology discussions, particularly DNA viruses. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, and let's get started. Also check the Picmonic link in the description and in the first comment. You can find all of these videos in my microbiology playlist as well as in my Picmonic playlist. In part 1, we talked about actinomyces, listeria, corynebacteria, and nocardia. Part 2 was about the Clostridia, including Clostridium tetani, Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium difficile, and Clostridium perfringens. Part 3 was about staph and strep pneumo. Part 4, the rest of the strep and the enterococci. Part 5, Bacillus anthracis, Bacillus cereus, and the mycobacteria. Part 6 was about Neisseria and Moraxella. Part 7, Haemophilus influenzae, Bordetella pertussis, Pasteurella, Brucella, and Francisella. In part 8, we talked about Legionella and H. pylori. In part 9, we talked about Campylobacter jejuni, Vibrio cholera, Escherichia coli, Klebsiella pneumoniae. In part 10, we discussed Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Proteus, and Salmonella. Part 11 was about Shigella and Yersinia. In part 12, we discussed Treponema pallidum, Leptospira, and Borrelia, which cause syphilis, leptospirosis, and Lyme disease respectively. In part 13, we talked about some atypical bacteria such as chlamydia, rickettsia, and mycoplasma. In part 14, we talked about the torch infections. In part 15, we talked about some miscellaneous gram-negatives, at least anatomically, the Anaplasma, the Bartonella, the Coxiella, the Ehrlichia, and the Rickettsia. And starting from part 16, we began to talk about fungi, such as histoplasmosis, blastomycosis, coccidioidomycosis, and paracoccidioidomycosis. These are fungal infections, systemic fungal infections to be specific. Part 17, more fungi, Candida, Aspergillus, and Cryptococcus. In the last video, we talked about Mucorrhyn rhizopus, PCP pneumonia, and Sporothrix schenki. Now it's time to talk about viruses, especially DNA viruses. Because as you know, viruses could be DNA viruses or RNA viruses. But I digress. What does microbiology even mean? Ology means the study of. Of what? Of bio, which is life. What kind of life? The microscopic life, the small life. Microbes that can lead to human diseases are divided into bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites. But be careful because many parasites are macroscopic rather than microscopic. Ergo, the field of microbiology is divided into bacteriology, fungology or mycology, virology, and parasitology. How do we classify bacteria? Based on the gram stain, we classify bacteria into gram-positive bacteria and gram-negative bacteria. Gram-positive bacteria could be cocci or rods. As for the gram-negatives, also cocci and rods. Purple versus pink. You can learn more about these bacteria by watching my Picmonic videos from video 1 through 15, which you can find in my microbiology playlist. Link is in the comments. If you wish to see more videos like this in the future, drop a petri dish or a bacterial emoji in the comments. I will not forgive myself if I did not tell you that you can tell the difference between bacteria that ferment lactose versus bacteria that do not ferment lactose. The lactose fermenting bacteria appear as pink colonies on McConkey agar, whereas those bacteria that do not ferment lactose appear as white colonies on McConkey agar. Don't ever forget that. Here is a question for the pros. Is E. coli lactose fermenter or lactose non-fermenter? If you know, comment below. Let us learn some basic facts about viruses. First, let me tell you something shocking. Viruses are not actually cells. Because living cells have definitions, they have criteria, they have characteristics, such as living cells should replicate independently. They should be able to make their own proteins on their own. They can produce their own energy, and you can see them by light microscopy. However, viruses cannot replicate independently. Viruses cannot make their own proteins on their own. Viruses cannot produce energy, and viruses cannot be seen by a light microscope, which means viruses do not check and live up to the 4 fundamental tenets of cell theory. What are the 4 fundamental tenets of cell theory? Number 1, all living things are composed of cells. 2, the cell is the basic function unit of life. 3, cells arise only from pre-existing cells. And 4th, cells carry genetic information in the form of DNA, but viruses are different. Viruses are not really living organisms. You can count them as at the edge of life, or at the edge between life and non-life. Viruses lack cellular structures. Do viruses have a nucleus? No. Do they have cytoplasm? No. Do they have mitochondria? Also no. Viruses are small infectious agents. I said agents. I did not say organisms or microorganisms. First discovered in 1892, they replicate very quickly. That's why everyone is trying to go viral and no one is trying to go bacterial. Viruses cannot make their own proteins independently. Instead, they have to hijack your own nucleus and use your cells as a DNA making machine. For example, the HIV virus is going to hijack your own lymphocytes, which are subtypes of white blood cells. If you want to learn more about lymphocytes, please refer to my hematology playlist. So let's compare between living cells and viruses. Living cells replicate by mitosis or binary fission. Viruses, nope. Living cells have cell membranes. Viruses do not have membranes. Sometimes they have an envelope, sometimes they do not. But an envelope is not the same as a lipid bilayer cell membrane. If we may take the human cell as an example, your genetic material is DNA. That's where your genes are. A gene is a piece of your DNA, and then you can use that DNA to make RNA. We call this process transcription. So you have both. You have DNA and you can use that DNA to make RNA. But for viruses, no, it's either DNA or RNA, not both. That's why we divide viruses into DNA viruses and RNA viruses. In living cells, the proteins are many. In viruses, the proteins are few. Living cells have ribosomes. Viruses do not have ribosome with an exception of the arenavirus. It has ribosomes that do not function or whose function are not known up to this point. The mitochondria are present in eukaryotic cells but absent in prokaryotic cells. In viruses, mitochondria are absent. Living cells have many enzymes. Viruses, the enzymes are few or non-existent. Hey virus, you have the microphone. Tell me about yourself. Well, I either have a DNA or an RNA, not both. I have a protective protein coat. Some viruses are enveloped, others are not. Few proteins, few enzymes, no nucleus, no cytoplasm, no cell membrane. Ribosomes are absent, mitochondria are absent. Viruses cannot produce energy or make their own proteins. Viruses cannot replicate outside your cell or outside of the host cell. They have to be inside your own cell in order to replicate. And that's why technically, from a biological standpoint, viruses are obligate intracellular parasite because they have to hijack you, the host, in order to survive. And they have to live inside your cell. They have to. They're obligate intracellular parasites or agents. We can divide viruses into DNA viruses and RNA viruses. There are gazillion, bazillion viruses out there. If we focus on the viruses that cause human diseases, we can narrow this down a lot. If you are a student, you need to know about 7 plus 15. 7 DNA virus families and 15 RNA viral families. What are the 7 DNA viral families? Pox, herpes, hepatina, Parv, polyadena. This is pox viridae, herpes viridae, hepatinavirus or hepatinaviride. This is Parvo, this is Papilloma, this is Polyoma, and this is adeno. The song is pox, herpes, hepatina, Parv, polyadena. I wrote them in this manner intentionally. Why? Because the first row is enveloped. That's why I surrounded by a rectangle like an envelope. But the second row does not have an envelope. These are non-enveloped DNA viruses. The RNA viruses are many, and we shall talk about them in later videos. In the last video, we talked about the herpes family of viruses, which includes HSV, CMV, EBV, and VZV. Today we'll talk about other DNA viruses. especially the pox virus, hepadinavirus, parvovirus, papillomavirus or human papillomavirus, as well as polyomavirus. Pox and hepadina are enveloped, but parv, pap, and poly are non-enveloped, which means naked. In the last video, which was part 19, we talked about these 4 viruses: HSV, VZV, EBV, and CMV, herpes simplex virus, varicella zoster virus, Epstein or Epstein-Barr virus, and cytomegalovirus. This includes human herpes virus 1 and 2. This is human herpes virus 3. This is human herpes virus 4. And this is human herpes virus 5. So we can say that all of these are part of the Herpesviridae family of DNA viruses. All of these were DNA viruses. Today we'll talk about more DNA viruses, particularly Poxviridae, Parvoviridae, Polyomaviridae, human papillomaviridae, and hepadinaviridae. If you don't want to say viridae, say virus. Pox, parvo, polyoma, HPV, and hepadina. Don't ever forget that hepadina is a DNA virus. I mean, it's written in the name. The rest of them are also DNA viruses. Let's start with the pox virus family. Okay, Picmonic, take it from here.
Pox virus, depicted as the fox virus in this Picmonic, is a family of viruses that have the ability to infect humans. These viruses are enveloped, represented literally by the envelope, and their genetic material is composed of double-stranded DNA, shown by the DNA double helix in a linear arrangement, seen here as the line. Pox viruses have capsids that are in a unique non-icosahedral structure, illustrated as the nun-ice cathedral. This family of viruses is responsible for a number of human diseases, including smallpox, cowpox, and molluscum contagiosum. Smallpox, the small fox, which is now eradicated, is a disease that causes a maculopapular rash and fluid-filled blisters. Another disease caused by this family is cowpox, the cow fox, which is a zoonotic virus contracted from the udders of infected cows, and is commonly seen in dairymaids. These viruses also cause molluscum contagiosum, depicted as the mollusks with contagious green fumes, which presents on the skin as characteristic umbilicated flesh-colored domed lesions, portrayed by the umbilicated dimple on the mollusk. So to recap, pox virus describes a family of viruses that cause human disease. These viruses are enveloped, and their genetic material is composed of double-stranded DNA in a linear arrangement. Pox viruses have unique capsids, which are non-icosahedral. They are responsible for numerous human diseases, including smallpox, cowpox, and molluscum contagiosum, which exhibits umbilicated flesh-colored domed lesions.
Next, Parvo B19.
Parvovirus B19, portrayed by the Par4 virus with brunch at the 19th hole, is a DNA virus, shown by the DNA. This virus is the only DNA virus that is single-stranded, illustrated by the single-stranded helix with a one-wand flagpole. And it has a linear genome, depicted by the pulley line. The line should help you remember the linear part. This virus happens to be the smallest DNA virus, which is why the king is looking at the virus through a magnifying lens. This is a non-enveloped virus, shown by the nun holding an envelope. This virus is a cause of a childhood exanthem, commonly called fifth disease, shown by the baby putting his 5 hand up for a high five. This is described as a slapped cheek rash in children, illustrated by the slap-cheeked baby being slapped across the cheek. Fifth's disease is also called erythema infectiosum, shown by the earth red with the infectious green hue. In pregnant women, parvovirus can lead to hydrops fetalis, shown by the drop from the eye drop fountain with a fetus inside. Parvovirus replicates in erythroid progenitor cells, which inhibits red blood cell production and causes RBC aplasia, shown by the red blood cell on the plate. In adults, it usually presents as arthritis, seen here as King Arthur. Sometimes, parvovirus can cause an aplastic crisis in patients with hematologic abnormalities, such as sickle cell, portrayed by a plastic bottle with sickle. Furthermore, there is a link between parvovirus infection and the development of myocarditis, the Mayo Heart card. So in rapid review, parvovirus B19 is a DNA-comprised, single-stranded linear virus. It is the smallest DNA virus and is non-enveloped. Infection leads to fifth disease, which is described by a slapped cheek rash in children. Fifth disease is also known as erythema infectiosum, and pregnant women who are infected are at a high risk for developing hydrops fetalis. This virus causes RBC aplasia, arthritis in adults, and aplastic crisis in sickle cell patients. Don't forget there is also a link between parvovirus infection and the development of myocarditis.
Coming up next, Polyomavirus family. Why did we call it polyoma, by the way? Poly means many, oma means tumor or swelling. One member of the Polyomaviridae is Merkel cell virus, which causes Merkel cell carcinoma, which as a student you do not need to know about unless you are a PhD student or something.
Polyomaviruses are a family of viruses recalled by the polyovirus wreaking havoc at a fast food restaurant. Polyomaviruses primarily affect birds and mammals, with their associated viruses giving rise to diverse pathologies that we'll describe in this Picmonic. These viruses share several important cellular characteristics, like being non-enveloped, demonstrated by the non-envelope. They are all double-stranded DNA viruses, depicted by the DNA double helix, and are also circular, portrayed by the circular object, while displaying an icosahedral capsid structure. This virus family is commonly isolated in human hosts, but typically with an asymptomatic presentation, with exception to patients that are immunocompromised. This includes those infected with HIV, post-organ transplant patients, and those taking immunosuppressive medications. There are two primary polyomaviruses to be familiar with, BK virus and JC virus, both named after the initials of the first patients they were isolated in. BK virus, represented by the BK drive-through, preferentially persists in the kidneys and urinary tract after primary infection, and waits until immunosuppression allows proliferation and subsequent pathology. This usually occurs after a kidney transplant and the subsequent pharmacologic immunosuppression to prevent organ rejection. BK virus may result in tubulointerstitial nephritis or ureteral stenosis, causing kidney damage, seen via rising serum creatinine, as well as the presence of inflammatory and renal tubular cells on urinalysis. This can be remembered by the kidney with damage. BK virus has also been linked to hemorrhagic cystitis in bone marrow transplant patients. A similar virus, sharing approximately 75% genome similarity, is the JC virus, shown here by the JC on a penny. This polyomavirus is capable of causing progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy or PML, which is a severe, rare inflammatory disease of white matter in the brain, illustrated here by the PML license plate. Of note, the drug natalizumab, which is a recombinant monoclonal antibody used in the treatment of relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, can lead to the development of PML at a rate of approximately 4 cases per 1,000 patients. There is also evidence that the anti-neoplastic monoclonal antibody medication, rituximab, used broadly to treat rheumatoid arthritis, hematologic cancers, lupus, and multiple sclerosis, among others, can also lead to PML. As mentioned, both of these viruses cause disease only in immunocompromised patients, often those with HIV/AIDS, symbolized as the Band-Aids, as this immunosuppressive disease is a major instigator of JC virus clinical disease, specifically PML. A key pathophysiologic occurrence to remember regarding the JC virus is that it destroys oligodendrocytes, exhibited by the old goalie, which are the cells responsible for the creation and maintenance of the myelin sheath surrounding neurons in the CNS. This destruction leads to demyelination of the CNS, shown as the unraveling myelin on the neuron, which results in delayed transmission of nerve impulses and may result in profound neurologic deficits and even death. So let's summarize the high-yield facts to know about the polyomavirus family. These are non-enveloped, double-stranded DNA viruses with a circular genome and icosahedral structure. The two primary disease-causing species are BK virus and JC virus. BK virus causes nephropathy in post-kidney transplant patients. JC virus leads to progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, a disease characterized by CNS white matter inflammation of immunocompromised individuals, such as those taking immunosuppressive medications like natalizumab and rituximab, or those with HIV/AIDS. PML attacks oligodendrocytes, leading to demyelination of the CNS with subsequent morbidity and mortality.
Next, we have the human papillomavirus, or family of viruses to be specific. It has many serotypes. Some of them are benign, meaning they do not cause cancer, but other serotypes are neoplastic because they cause cancer.
This Picmonic covers human papillomavirus, abbreviated HPV, which is a sexually transmitted infection that can result in genital warts and squamous neoplasia of the anogenital and oropharyngeal regions. Human papillomavirus can be recalled here by the human puppet virus. This viral organism is non-enveloped, seen as the non-envelope, and its DNA exists in a circular arrangement, shown as the circular object. An important differentiating factor to recall is that HPV is a double-stranded DNA virus, exhibited by the DNA double helix. The disease manifestations and location of presentation depend on the particular viral type, with types 1 and 2 causing skin warts, like plantar warts, and types 6 and 11 causing genital warts. These are depicted by the wart graph, 1, 2, 6, and 11. Genital warts caused by types 6 and 11 are also called condyloma acuminata, or venereal warts, and are highly contagious via direct skin-to-skin contact. Condyloma acuminata is represented here by the condom cucumber. HPV types 16 and 18 are associated with squamous neoplasia of the cervix and penis, in addition to oropharynx, recalled by the 1 wand, 6 sacs, and 1 wand, 8 ball. There are two important neoplasms, one for women and one for men, to remember when considering the high-risk strains of HPV. First, know that affected women have a higher risk of contracting cervical carcinoma manifested by the cervix certificate carnome. Secondly, men have a higher risk of penile carcinoma, exhibited by the penis pointer. Patients that are immunosuppressed, or those with AIDS, shown by the band-aids, have a higher incidence of contracting high-risk strains like 16 and 18. Test writers often highlight the fact that the presence of high-risk HPV infections in women is worsened by smoking, viewed here as the cigarette, and are more likely to develop high-grade cervical cancer. HPV displays several characteristic cellular signs to aid in diagnosis. The squamous epithelium undergoes changes in response to HPV infection, namely coilocytic changes, in which the nucleus darkens to become hyperchromatic, develops irregular borders, and develops a clear area surrounding it, called a paranuclear halo. Remember these coilocytic changes in the squamous epithelium by the coil on square mouse. Another cellular peculiarity displayed by HPV-infected cells are pycnotic nuclei surrounded by a clear halo, demonstrated by the nuclear pickle with halo. This occurs as the chromatin condenses in the nucleus of a cell undergoing apoptosis or necrosis, and also reveals a paranuclear halo. Lastly, there is a vaccine available to assist adolescents and young adults in building an adequate immunity against those high-risk HPV strains that lend themselves to the development of premalignant neoplasms in the anogenital and oropharyngeal area. This is depicted by the syringe. So let's recap human papillomavirus, or HPV. This is a non-enveloped virus which contains DNA that is circular and double-stranded. This DNA virus has multiple strains capable of causing different clinical presentations. Types 1, 2, 6, and 11 cause warts. More specifically, types 1 and 2 cause plantar warts, while types 6 and 11 cause genital or venereal warts, which are also referred to as condyloma acuminata. Types 16 and 18 can lead to cervical carcinoma and penile carcinoma in women and men, respectively. Immunosuppression, such as AIDS, as well as cigarette smoking, can both increase the likelihood of developing a high-risk strain of HPV. Intracellularly, coilocytic changes in the squamous epithelium, as well as pycnotic nuclei with a paranuclear halo, are both characteristic of HPV infection. There is currently a vaccine available to adolescents and young adults to build immunity against those high-risk strains.
Finally, we have the Papillomavirus, which causes hepatitis B viral infection of your liver.
Hepatitis B virus, shown by the happy bee riding on the reverse-facing train, is an important viral cause of hepatitis and can contribute to multiple systemic illnesses. It's in the Papillomavirus family, portrayed by the liver virus. This is an enveloped virus, illustrated by the envelopes. Its genome is circular, the circular track, and partially double-stranded, shown by the DNA double helix railroad tracks with portions which are a single track. Hepatitis B virus replication is unique because it occurs via reverse transcription of viral RNA using reverse transcriptase, shown by the reverse train facing the right with the carts facing the left. This virus is transmitted by exposure to infected blood, often via IV drug use, shown by the syringe. Sexual intercourse, portrayed by the male and female sex signs, can also result in transmission. If a woman with hepatitis B becomes pregnant, there is also a chance for maternal fetal transmission of the virus, shown by the pregnant lady in the envelope, and the infant can potentially become infected. Hepatitis B infection has a relatively long incubation period of 3 months, shown by the 3 tree. So, in summary, hepatitis B virus is a virus in the Papillomavirus family. It is an enveloped virus with a circular, partially double-stranded genome. It replicates using reverse transcriptase. Transmission of hepatitis B occurs via exposure to infected blood, such as during IV drug use. It can also occur during sexual intercourse or through maternal fetal transmission from a pregnant female to her child. The incubation period for this infection is approximately 3 months.
Next, we'll talk about the diseases caused by hepatitis B virus. Caused by or associated with hepatitis B virus.
Hepatitis B, shown by the happy bee wearing a tie, is a blood-borne pathogen that can infect the liver and cause chronic liver disease with systemic complications. Unlike hepatitis A, which only causes acute hepatitis, hepatitis B can lead to chronic disease, portrayed by the old crone in the car. Among infected adults, less than 10% can become chronic carriers, illustrated by the happy adult bee wearing a tie holding the 10% sign. However, for infected newborns that contracted through perinatal transmission, the rate of chronic carriage increases to 90%, shown by the baby standing on the bar graph with a 90% sign. HBV infection can lead to a chronic hepatitis with elevated liver function tests. Over time, cirrhosis can develop, shown by the cirrhosis on the liver. It also predisposes to the development of hepatocellular carcinoma, portrayed by the gnome in the liver car. Hepatocarcinoma, hepatocellular carcinoma. HPV can cause systemic inflammation and immune dysregulation, leading to other conditions like membranous glomerulonephritis, the man in bra on a glowing mare, which presents with proteinuria. HPV may cause polyarteritis nodosa, shown by the polyartist drawing a nodosaur, which is a systemic vasculitis. Additionally, a serum sickness-like syndrome may develop, shown by the syrup bottle, which presents with fever, rash, and arthritis. So in summary, hepatitis B is a virus that can lead to chronic liver disease. Less than 10% of infected adults become chronic carriers, while 90% of infected newborns will. Chronic liver infection with HBV can lead to cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Other systemic manifestations of HBV include membranous glomerulonephritis, polyarteritis nodosa, and a serum sickness-like syndrome.
So, we've just learned about pox, parvo, polyoma, HPV, and hepatina. All of them are DNA viruses. If you want some colorful pictures to help you categorize and classify the bacteria and the fungi, Picmonic has many resources. After you watch these Picmonics, you can actually quiz yourself. There are several multiple choice questions after each Picmonic. Multiply that by 1,800 Picmonics and you easily get more than 5,000 multiple choice questions on this website. By the way, can you tell me the answer to these questions? Comment below if you know. You can browse these Picmonics by your favorite book, by subject, and by system. Every single day they give you a quiz based on the topics that you have reviewed before, so that you can refresh your memory. This is my methodology of understanding and mastering these Picmonics. First, I watch the animation, then the story animation, and then I watch the animation again. I pause and stare at the picture. I close my eyes and use my imagination to put each item and each character in its place. Then I open my eyes and see how I did. I solve the quiz. I get a piece of paper and write down the place of the characters. I revisit the same Picmonic on day 2, on day 50, and on day 30. This use of spaced repetition helps me remember these Picmonics for a very long time, sometimes years or decades. For example, I still vividly remember the Picmonic on tuberous sclerosis, which I've watched more than 10 years ago. You can try Picmonic for free. You can use it on your desktop computer or on a mobile app or even on a tablet. They use visual, audio, storytelling. You can read a script. You can practice spaced repetition. There are multiple choice questions after each Picmonic. You can even create your own Picmonic and watch new Picmonics made by other students just like you. And now to my favorite part of the lecture, the comparison table. Today we talked about pox, parvo, polyoma, human papillomavirus, and hepadina. There are 5 questions that you need to ask yourself about each virus. Number 1, is it DNA or RNA? The answer to these is DNA. All of them are DNA viruses. Second question, tell me about its genome. Is it double-stranded or single-stranded? All of them are double-stranded. Hepadina is partially double-stranded. Parvo is the exception because parvus literally means small. The smallest one, by definition, will be single-stranded because it's very small. It doesn't have enough space for a double strand. Next, tell me about how this genome looks like. Is it circular or linear? Pox and parvo are linear. Polyoma, HPV, and hepadina are circular. Then tell me about the capsid, which is the protein that surrounds the virus. Pox has a non-icosahedral capsid. The rest of them have icosahedral capsid. What does icosahedral mean? It's reference to the icosahedron, which is a shape in geometry. It's a polyhedron with 20 faces. If a virus does not have an icosahedral capsid or a protein shell, then we call it helical or complex. So you have 3 choices. It could be icosahedral capsid, it could be helical capsid, or it could be a complex capsid. Pox is usually a complex capsid or complex symmetry. Next, tell me about the outermost envelope. Pox is enveloped, hepadina is enveloped, but parvo, polyoma, and HBV are non-enveloped. After which I'm going to tell you about the diseases caused by each viral family. Pox can lead to smallpox, cowpox, and molluscum contagiosum. Smallpox has been largely eradicated. Next, Parvo B19. It causes the 5th disease, the slapped cheek in a young person. This is erythema infectiosum. Why do we call it 5th disease? Because we have 4 other previous diseases that cause skin rash in babies or in the pediatric population. Parvo happened to be the 5th disease that can lead to rash in a child. Parvo can lead to hydrops fetalis, that's awful. It can lead to pure red blood cell aplasia, also awful. Aplastic crisis, especially in sickle cell disease. By the way, what does pure red cell aplasia mean? It means that the parvo, when it affects the bone marrow, it's not gonna touch your platelets, it's not gonna touch your white blood cells, but it will only focus on the red blood cells. That's why we call it pure red blood cell aplasia, or pure red blood cell destruction. In adults, it can lead to arthritis and it can lead to myocarditis in anybody. Here's a question for you. Can myocarditis elevate my serum level of troponin? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. Next, we have polyoma. Multiple lesions. Think of this, multiple lesions in the brain. Progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. Why progressive? Because it gets worse and worse and worse. Multifocal, different locations. Leukoencephalopathy. Pathy means pathology. Cephalo means brain. Leuko means the white matter of the brain, which is on the inside, not on the outside. Remember, in the brain, the white matter is inside, the gray matter is on the outside. But in the spinal cord, it's the opposite. Gray inside, white outside. That's the JC component of the polyoma. How about the BK causes kidney damage, bad kidneys? BK, bad kidney. Next, human papillomavirus. We have benign serotypes and we have the neoplastic or malignant serotypes. The benign serotypes, such as HPV1, N2, N6, and 11, they can lead to warts. Could be on the genitals or could be not on the genitals. These warts are known as condyloma acuminata, not to be confused with condyloma lata. What's the name of the organism that causes condyloma lata? If you know the answer, comment below. Next, the malignant serotypes or serovars of HPV virus. These include 16 and 18. You should always know these. And if you want to learn more, there's 31 and 33. What do? They are malignant. They cause cancers. Cancers were vulvar cancer, vaginal cancer, cervical cancer, anal cancer, and pharyngeal cancer. The first three are from vaginal intercourse, this is from anal intercourse, and the last one is from oral sex. HPV has a vaccine. Finally, hepadina, this is hepatitis B virus. Let me tell you something. How many hepatitis viruses do you need to know? The answer is you need to know 5. Hepatitis A virus, hepatitis B virus, this guy, hepatitis C virus, hepatitis D virus, and hepatitis E virus. All of them are RNA viruses except only hepatitis B virus. This hepatitis B virus is a member of the hepadina family. Can this hepatitis B virus cause acute hepatitis? The answer is yes. Can it cause chronic hepatitis? The answer is yes. And if the chronic hepatitis is not treated, and if it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, there is a chance that I will suffer from cirrhosis of the liver. It doesn't always have to end up in cirrhosis, but it might. It might also lead to hepatocellular carcinoma. All of these are in the liver. How about my kidneys? Membranous glomerulonephritis. How about in my arteries? Polyarteritis nodosa. All of my arteries? All of them except the pulmonary artery for some reason. This is a correlation and not necessarily a causation. We see that many patients with polyarteritis nodosa are positive for hepatitis B surface antigen. Next, hepadinavirus can lead to serum sickness-like reaction. Please take a moment to pause and review. Today we talked about pox, parvo, polyoma, HPV, and hepadina. In the next video, we'll talk about more viruses. Next, a final review. Pox, the foxpox. It's enveloped. It's a double-stranded DNA virus. It's linear. It's not icosahedral. Diseases, smallpox, cowpox, and molluscum contagiosum. Next, we have the Parvo B19 virus. It's a single-stranded DNA virus. Parvo means small. It's the smallest DNA virus. It's linear. It's non-enveloped. Diseases. It causes the 5th disease or erythema infectiosum with the slapped cheeks. It can lead to hydrops fetalis and pure red blood cell aplasia. In adults, it causes arthritis. And don't forget myocarditis. Polyomavirus. Non-enveloped, double-stranded DNA, and circular. We have BK, which causes bad kidneys, and we have JC, which causes progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, especially in immunocompromised persons. This disease causes demyelination of the white matter of the brain, because only the white matter of the brain is myelinated. The gray matter, however, by definition, is unmyelinated. So you cannot demyelinate a gray matter. It's impossible. Next, we have HPV or human papillomavirus. It has benign serotypes 1, 2, 6, and 11. These cause warts. Then we have the malignant ones, 16 and 18 serotypes, and these cause cancers. HPV diseases can be worsened by smoking and being immunocompromised. Next, we have the hepatitis B characteristics. It's enveloped, it's circular, and it's partially double-stranded. It has a reverse transcriptase enzyme. Who else has a reverse transcriptase? If you say HIV virus, which is the retrovirus family, you're absolutely correct. Hepatitis B infection is associated with IV drug abuse, intercourse, and maternal fetal vertical transmission. Diseases caused by hepatitis B virus include hepatitis, cirrhosis, and hepatocellular carcinoma, glomerulonephritis such as membranous and membranoproliferative, associated with polyarteritis nodosa and serum sickness-like reaction. Use the link in the description box to try Picmonic for free. And if you decide to subscribe to Picmonic, the same link will give you a discount. Picmonic has more than 1,800 different Picmonics, including Picmonics on bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. And that's just microbiology. You can also find Picmonics for anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pathology, psychology, internal medicine, and even statistics. My favorite Picmonic subjects are microbiology, pharmacology, genetics, and obstetrics and gynecology. Whether you're studying to be a doctor, a nurse, physician assistant, nurse practitioner, pharmacist, PT, OT, a dentist, or a paramedic, Picmonic has a solution for you. You can download the app for free right now on your phone or tablet and go to picmonic.com/VIP hookup/medicosis and they will hook you up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you Picmonic for sponsoring this video. Click on this link in the description box. We'll see you next time. As always, be safe, stay happy, study hard. This is Medicosis Perfectionandus, where medicine makes perfect sense.